This is Pure Love, episode 8.
Hey everyone, this is Pure Love. I'm Ignacio.
I'm Mandy.
I am the unicorn.
I'm the mermaid, cotton candy mermaid.
And Pure Love, for those of you who are chiming in for the first time, is an online talk show between a parent and a child, adult child. Talking about our relationship, talking about the ways in which I raised her. And this talk show comes, it's a kind of a spin-off of the HEAL project, which the platform of that project is that comprehensive sex education is a tool to ending child sexual abuse. So the ways in which I talk to my daughter, the relationship building and using sex education as a life skill really is sort of the model that this talk show is kind of born on, right? And it's not to say that my way of raising a child is the best and the only way. It's just one aspect. It's just a sharing, storytelling, and just letting folks know about different ways in which parents raise their kids. Right? So today is a good topic. It's a topic that Mandy, thought of, which I really, really like, and it's raising a weirdo. Right. So when she brought that up, I was like, wow, this is really interesting. Raising a weirdo. I want to know how you identify being a weirdo, because it brought up like memories of me being a weirdo when I was a kid.
Well, for one, I want to say weirdo is not a dirty word for me. I use it in a positive way. There's a lot of terms that people use negatively that I flip and use it for myself as an identifying tool. But I consider myself a weirdo because I don't stick to the norm, especially when it comes to like fashion, people I hang out with, the lifestyle I live.
Really?
My beliefs, things like that. I mean, I've been dyeing my hair for a long time. I've always loved makeup. I've always changed the way I dressed according to how I felt at that time. Like even now, some days I'll be in all black. Sometimes I might be in something really androgynous, something really feminine. Every day is something different. And like sometimes I'll wear green eyebrows and have purple hair, or something, wear black lipstick, pink hair. So I'm just like, a creative individual would be my real expression, and that can be in many forms.
It's interesting that you say mostly around like the way you express yourself in terms of your fashion or gender expression even. I actually thought about it in terms of like when you were younger, how you if you had a choice to go outside and play or stay inside and read a book, you would stay in and read a book. I would have to like try to push you.
Oh yeah, that
out,
too. Yeah.
Right? So
I'm still like that.
she was like reading really higher level books at a time when people, like people her age were reading stuff on their grade level. So she was interested in a lot of other things. So I could think about that as, weirdo, right? You want to be reading rather than being outside.
I still do.
I think also maybe weirdo, what other people would describe you as that in terms of like how you, I always say like you're fire, right? The way that you express yourself and give your opinions and things like that. Like I think sometimes when you're young, you kind of hold back a little bit, right? Because you're thinking about your peers and what people are gonna think about you. Mm-hmm. And I don't think you held back on stuff. I think that you were, like saying things straight up, and people were just like taken aback by that rawness and that honesty. It was difficult, I think, for a lot of people. Yeah,
I try.
So, would you say that in your weirdo-ness as a young person and as an adult, like, and we're talking about this for the first time, so when we do these shows, we don't really prep. We just kind of talk about it as is. So would you say that I was supportive, not supportive, neutral in raising, a weird child?
I think you were very supportive. I mean, of course, you like with the being an introvert and stuff, like you wanted me to socialize more and stuff. You always put me in programs, let me have sleepovers. So it's not, like you catered to both sides, like when I wanted to be by myself or if I wanted to be social. And with hair and stuff, like from very young, like you've always let me like whatever piercing, a tattoo, my hair, clothing, like you were always like, all right, well, I guess this is like the phase you're in now or what you're into, so let's do that. The only restrictions really were like age appropriate clothing and like if something didn't look good for my complexion or something. But other than that, you were pretty supportive through everything. That's why I'm able to be who I am now and like be so adamant that I have to stay this way. Because I'm like, I can't be somewhere where I can't be like this.
Right. Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad that I was supportive. I was trying to be. But sometimes, you never know, right? Because you just kind of try to support as best you can. But it's also interesting that you say, like, piercings, tattoos, all that stuff. And I remember the first piercing that you got. It was on was it your 16th or 15th birthday or something?
I think I was just like, it was just a random time. I don't think it was a birthday.
I think it was because I remember it was in the village, and when I was doing it, the person behind the counter looked at me and said, this is permanent. Like they were trying to give me some advice about not allowing her because I had to sign.
I was 14.
Like, yeah, I know. Maybe that's what it was, right? You were 14. And for me, to me, those were, how people say don't sweat the small stuff, right? To me, that was small stuff. To me, there was a way that she wanted to express herself, and that was a part of her autonomy and her body, and that I didn't want to, like hinder that. Piercings could come out, those could heal. To me, it's not a big deal, and because she was doing other things in her life that were, she was going to school, she was doing what she needed to do, and she wanted to do that, so it was fine with me. And even with tattoos, I have tattoos. I'm not anti-tattoos. The only thing I told you was like, once this is on you, it's on you.
Just make sure it's a good one. Yeah.
Right. Like think about what you want to put on your body.
Go to a good artist.
Right. Yeah, I didn't have so many like rules about those things. I was more concerned about other shit, like getting a piercing, getting a tattoo. I wanted to have, different kinds of conversations with her and not like be concentrated on those things. And I actually loved like when you started putting makeup on, I loved it. I mean, like you were so creative and stuff, and I saw you shine in those things even now. Like when you do your makeup, when you color your hair, when you create make your own wigs. Like she's so creative. I think it's a part of your art, your expressiveness, and for me to hinder that, like that love that, I could see it. You're like, oh, I'm making this wig and I'm so excited. I wanted to support that, so yeah.
Thank you, Mom.
You're welcome.
Like this, I did this yesterday.
I love it.
I decided to switch it up.
And you've never had this color hair before, right?
I think once a few years ago, but not that long.
And I'm thinking about my weirdness as a young person. And I actually think it's funny because people always ask me, are you an introvert or an extrovert?
Both.
And yeah, I would say that. I don't know if I'm an introverted extrovert or an extroverted introvert. I don't know. I know that there are lots of moments where I need my solitude. I need to be alone. I think a lot of that is about my mental health stuff. And then there are other times where I love being out in front of a lot of people, like with the work that I do, like doing public speaking and performing. That feels really comfortable to me. So it's like I'm always like, I think I'm in the middle with everything. But I think my weirdness as a kid had more to do with, I don't know, I think I struggled a lot with my place in the world. Like, who am I?
Yeah.
what am I contributing? What is my purpose? I had a lot of like those internal dialogues.
Existential
Oh
questions.
God, I was so deep. I was so deep as a young person, you know, like really contemplating my existence and all that stuff. It was, yeah, but it was so emotional and intense for me growing up. I was really emotional. I was, yeah, just trying to figure myself out. And I also think that a part of it was my survivor stuff, grappling with that and not knowing that I was a survivor, that, you know, things were happening to me and stuff. So, yeah, it's, so I think my weirdness was around that. And also this feeling of no one understanding me. So thinking about you, I didn't want you to feel like no one understood you. I mean, at least I wanted me.
Yeah.
Like that I was there to understand you no matter what. Whether you were writing poetry in the corner, reading, you know, 5 books and wanting to talk deeply about, you know, the interconnections of, you know, indigenous sovereignty and slavery and the Holocaust. I mean, because this is what we were talking about when you were young, you know, or whether it's, you know, you having a different fashion sense at the time, you know. And I think that now, you know, you're saying that you're a weirdo, but I think there's a bigger group of weirdos like you.
It's more acceptable
right?
now.
Yeah.
I'm like, where were you guys when I was younger, when people made fun of me for having red hair and like wearing fishnets? Like, I used to get picked on a lot, and now everyone's like, oh my God. And I'm like, great. And now I'm at a point where I'm just like, I don't need the approval anymore. I don't seek it, because I'm like, I went through all this time like battling, like even today I was still like, oh my God, people are gonna look at my hair and they're gonna stare at me. Oh my God, they're gonna look at me, like what are they gonna say? Are they gonna laugh at me? And I'm still just like, I still have that fear, but then at the same time I'm like, I think it looks great.
Yes.
And I'm still coming to terms with this sometimes, and I'm still not as weird as I want to be. I still hold back a little bit, because I'm still kind of like, I don't want people to judge me, because people will always judge, and it's worse when it comes from your in-group.
Yeah.
But I know, especially being a black weirdo is even harder than being a regular weirdo.
Well, you shouldn't even say regular weirdo, right?
Being a specific black weirdo is a hard subgroup, is a hard type of weirdo to be, I guess. I don't know.
Why do you think?
Because I'm like, we already, as a people, we already have all these lenses on us, and I have a lot of, like, I'm a part of so many like subgroups, so I'm already, you know, being dissected on a daily basis by any given person. So I'm like, to try to be different and then, you know, be a scary black woman or something, it's like people don't know what to do with me or where to put me, or they wait for me to open my mouth really to see what kind of person I am, because they're like, she could really be about anything right now. Like, she has all these tattoos and she has this hair, but then she looks like she's kind of nice, but then she does like makeup, so I don't know if she's feminine and soft, but I don't. So I guess people try to figure me out, but people are still more accepting now than they were when I was younger, and I have a lot more friends who are like me. More than when I did when I was younger, because everyone was like confused and awkward.
Do you feel like people look at you with like this pink hair or your lipstick or anything like that, especially as a black woman, and think that you're ignorant, that you don't have anything to contribute? Because
yeah, definitely do, because I mean, you see how I automatically am cut out of a lot of employment opportunities because I don't look professional. But then I've seen lawyers with blue hair, but they're white, so it's different, you know? And I know for me, I know people associate bright colored hair with loud, obnoxious people or something, people who are lowbrow. And I'm like, once I speak to you, you're going to understand who I am. And I'm like, this is just an exterior. I mean, this is definitely my interior too.
Right.
This is just my exterior and doesn't tell you anything about my experience, my intelligence, my thoughts, anything. And people get really surprised. They're like, wow, I would never guess. And I'm like,
all right. Well, people just judge, right? Or have you had the other side of it where people say you're trying to be white, right?
That was from until the time I was maybe 14. I heard that.
I figured that's happened when you were younger, because there were not so many out black weirdos that there are right now, you know. And I think it's the rise of like being a black weirdo, like awkward, like really owning awkwardness. Also, I'm thinking about like like performers and
a lot of artists, a lot of Black Weirdo artists are coming up now.
I'm thinking about Lil' Kim back in the day, right? Because she was wearing wigs and coloring her hair.
She was dope from the beginning,
right? And I was like, I love that. Like, she is a black woman.
She's a free black woman
doing that stuff, right? So I appreciated that. So there were more people doing that kind of stuff, and now giving way to, you know, that there are a lot of Black weirdos in a lot of different ways.
If you see on social media and everything, like, I just see the younger generation and they're all like so expressive, and it seems like they're so confident and like steadfast in their identities, and I'm like, I wish I was like that when I was younger, and they're lucky that they're growing up in this time where they're able to be like, I think I'm a gender fluid unicorn at 10 years old, and someone's like, okay, that's cool, great. Yeah. What do you want us to call you? What are your pronouns? You know, like, but when I was younger, they would have been like, shut your ass up, like, go to school, Jeffrey. You know, so I'm like, it's a good time for them. It's a good time for young people to self-express right now.
But I would also say that even though they're getting positivity from other people or on social media or something like that, that I would say that there's a bigger impact or a big impact when it is your own family of origin supporting that. Supporting that you can dress the way you like, and you know, and sometimes you know, I think as parents we think, oh, you're going through a phase. And I don't think I ever thought about it in that way. I said, this is how you want to dress, then okay. And we'll talk about that, like what that means and what that looks like and how other people might address you or think about you or look at you. So I kind of like thinking about preparing you for what, you know, how people are going to, I guess, make assumptions, you know, just make assumptions about you. So it's about preparing. And I wanted to support you in all ways. And if later on you decided, that was when I was younger, I don't feel like doing that to my hair anymore, then that's fine. But obviously it's a huge part of you because you've been doing this since you were like 12, right?
I'm going to be one of those old ladies with like a purple fro because like they put that rinse in their hair when it turns white. I'm going to be that old lady with purple hair. Definitely.
So I go ahead. You wanted to say
I was gonna say I also love that mommy and papi, my grandparents, they also support it too. Like whenever I go over there with my hair, they're like, "Oh my goodness, vaya mom, they like your hair." So I'm like, that's nice. Like I can go to my grandparents and they're all like, "You look beautiful." I'm like, "Oh, thank you."
Yeah, and that's cool. Like with you know, they're from another generation, but they've always I think they've always expected this artistic, like beautiful expression from you because that's what you exude, and I'm glad that I was able to allow that to happen. Because I think, you know, sometimes as parents we want to protect our kids. We want you to fit in.
Yeah,
and I was just like,
from the bullies.
I don't fit in already, so you know.
It's not so bad on the other side.
Right. So I think on my end I would say, you know, listen to young people because this is, I think as adults we often think of things as phases, and maybe it's not. Maybe it's a part of somebody's life, and even if it's something that's short-lived, it's still a part of their life because it's a journey. They make decisions and they could say, I like this or I didn't like this. You can talk about how society sees them. It's more of an interaction than it is a absolute no. Because sometimes, as we all know, that sometimes when you say no without any kind of reasoning, young people or people in general navigate towards that thing even more.
Yeah. I would also say that sometimes parents have a disconnect with their kids because they forget that what it once felt like to be that way. Because it's like once you're in it and you're a kid, it's everything. Yeah. And then once you get past it, you move so quickly afterwards. Life comes at you so quickly after your teenage years that you really forget. Like, damn, I was that 13-year-old kid, like awkward, singing in my room to Britney Spears and stuff. And now my daughter's doing the same thing, and I'm getting mad at her for singing Britney Spears. Right. You know, like, so you have to really sit back and be like, when I was this age, what kind of kid was I? What was I doing? What was my mom telling me that I couldn't do, who I couldn't be, how I couldn't dress, and try to apply it accordingly. You know, like, you know, you always want the best for your kids, but you still want them to be them, and they will thank you forever for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is exactly, I remember being a teenager. I absolutely remember being a teenager and crying about things that my mom wouldn't let me do or my dad wouldn't let me do, or things that I was upset about. And I would say to myself over and over this mantra. I was like, when I grow up and I have a child, I will remember this. I will remember this. And I did. I remember, and even though now as an adult, there were things that you know, would get upset about or want, and I was like, oh, inside I was rolling my eyes because I was like, this is nothing. When you get older, you're going to realize this means nothing.
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter because in that moment, it's everything. So I had to remember that for you, it was the entire world. And so I had to acknowledge that, right?
I have to do that dealing with kids too. I'm just like, oh my God. But then I'm like, all right, you're 3. There's nothing else you know. Okay.
All right. So I hope that this was helpful, and I hope that if parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, godparents, guardians, listen. You know, sometimes don't sweat the small stuff because it's always an opportunity to have a better relationship and to understand the journey that the young people are going on, and it's theirs to navigate and create. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. See you next time.
Bye.